training combines two topics: confined space and mobile equipment pedestrian general awareness. Because confined spaces. We have many confined spaces throughout our operations and facilities. But what are confined spaces and why does everyone need to know about them? Confined spaces are defined by OSHA as spaces that meet three criteria. They are large enough someone could enter them, they have a limited way of getting in or out of, and they are not designed or intended for someone to be in them continuously. OSHA further indicates all employees working in places where confined spaces exist must be trained to understand the hazards and to stay out of confined spaces. Examples of confined spaces you can find within our locations include tanks, manholes and sewers, pits, bins, silos, tunnels, hoppers, piping, and ductwork. All our locations have been evaluated, identifying, labeling, and controlling access to confined spaces. Because of that, you should never accidentally find yourself within a confined space. The primary reason employees are trained to stay out of confined spaces is that not all confined spaces are the same. While all must meet each of the three criteria set forth by OSHA to be considered a confined space, some pose unique or additional hazards. These spaces, called permit-required confined spaces, may contain hazardous atmospheres, materials that could bury or engulf an entrant, or configuration or design that could trap an entrant. Regardless if permit required or not, no person shall enter a confined space unless properly trained or authorized to do so. That said, this training does not authorize anyone to enter confined spaces. This is simply a general awareness course. Understand the hazards associated with confined spaces and stay out. Second topic for this month's training is pedestrian safety around mobile equipment, preventing incidents and injuries related to impacts. All our locations have one or more types of mobile equipment. Mobile equipment includes any vehicle capable of moving under its own power, such as a forklift, truck, skid steer, aerial lifts, or a powered pallet jack. This month's training deals with pedestrian safety, including working and walking within areas where mobile equipment is present, and how to mitigate the hazards associated with impacts. Each year across the United States, thousands of incidents related to pedestrian vehicle interactions in the workplace result in hundreds of significant injuries. Spaces where equipment and people work closely together typically contribute to most of those incidents. Most people's first thought when they hear the term mobile equipment is the forklift. Forklifts are one of the most common and useful pieces of equipment within any workplace. They provide critical movements, keep processes and logistics running, while also eliminating the need for people to manually lift and move heavy product themselves. As helpful as they are, forklifts can pose hazards both for the operator and anyone walking or working in the same area. Some common hazards associated with forklifts include: speak with any forklift operator, and one of the first hazards they would tell you about is how many blind spots there are while driving forklift. When walking through any area where forklifts operate, the number one thing to understand is where the forklifts are operating and also the fact that they may not see you. It is very easy for an entire person to be hidden from the view of a forklift driver behind parts of the forklift or the materials being moved. Forklift operators are trained to travel at safe speeds, either forward or backwards, prioritizing their best visibility, scanning the path to watch for people and hazards. This is not always possible, and pedestrians need to help themselves and help forklift drivers by staying alert to avoid impacts. When walking through an area where forklifts operate, do not assume drivers will easily or automatically see you. Make eye contact or get verbal acknowledgement, getting the go-ahead from the forklift operator before ever crossing in front of or behind an operating forklift. If you need to cross but you have not or cannot get the driver's attention, stop, wait, and walk through only when it is safe to do so. For our forklift drivers reviewing today's training, it is your responsibility to drive safely, slow down at intersections, sound horns at blind corners and where visibility is limited. If you notice pedestrians walking through in disregard of their own safety, risking an impact, speak with your supervisor or safety right away. The second most common cause of incidents between forklifts and pedestrians involves distractions while walking or driving. It is critical whether you're simply walking through, working in the area, or driving a forklift through areas where both people and equipment operate, everyone must remain alert. Avoid things like texting or looking at your phone, reading paperwork, having side conversations, or anything that would take your eyes or attention off your immediate surroundings. With understanding of how limited visibility for forklift operators already is, do what you can to help avoid impacts. Within warehouse spaces, materials come and go, and the space can quickly change from hour to hour or day to day. A wide open space you walked through 1 minute may be filled with product the next time you walk through. While most forklift drivers and warehouse leads work to maintain clear lanes of driving and walking, spaces can change. For our forklift drivers, maintain organization as much as possible, leaving walkways, driving lanes, and access to emergency exits consistently clear. This reduces confusion and creates a more predictable movement for where pedestrians may be. As a pedestrian, stay alert to your surroundings, maintaining eyes and attention on your path ahead, and avoid cutting through or taking random paths through materials or racking. Stick to the most defined pathways to limit confusion or surprise encounters with forklifts. Remember, with already limited visibility, a forklift may not see you and may not be able to stop soon enough to avoid impacting you. The final hazard we'll discuss regarding forklifts takes from specific examples of incidents and injuries that have occurred at Red River Commodities, looking at how each could have been avoided. In the first example, an employee was providing a pick sheet to their forklift driver. This simple task, handing a piece of paper off to the driver as they roll past, has been done hundreds, if not thousands, of times. This time, as the employee approached the forklift, the operator had not fully stopped, resulting in the back wheel contacting the pedestrian's foot as it rolled to a stop. How could a situation like this be improved? Never approach a moving forklift. Take the time to make eye contact, get acknowledgement, and allow the driver to come to a complete stop before approaching to avoid these kinds of impacts. Even better, allow the driver to come to a full stop, step off the lift, and then hand the paperwork off. A similar injury occurred in our second example when an employee's foot was struck by a forklift as the two passed by one another. How could this situation be improved? Simple improvements in a situation like this would include remembering those blind spots that forklifts have, to not assume the forklift driver can see you, and taking the time to make that eye contact, get acknowledgement, and make sure that it's safe to pass. If you are unable to get eye contact or acknowledgement, simply step to the side and allow the forklift time to pass. Third injury example comes from an impact between a pedestrian and a forklift at a blind corner. How can a situation like this be improved? While there are points that could be made regarding how congested of walkways were created, pedestrians and forklifts must both approach blind corners and intersections safely. Forklifts must sound their horn and slow down at these types of points, knowing it is a higher potential area for pedestrians to walk. Pedestrians must stay attentive to avoid stepping out in the direct path of a forklift, looking both ways, and again making eye contact and getting acknowledgement before proceeding to avoid impacts. Our last example is the most complex, but probably the most critical to get right. In shared spaces, where employees and forklifts move materials in and out of racking, best practices must be followed. If a forklift is driving or performing a pick or place of materials in pallet racking, do not approach, walk in front of, or walk behind that forklift. In addition to being impacted, pedestrians could be severely injured by falling materials. If a pedestrian is picking materials or performing hand stack within a pallet racking, forklift operators should avoid driving or performing simultaneous picks or places of materials to not expose pedestrians to hazards. If you can wait, allow the pedestrian to clear the space or notify them they need to clear the space. Remember, never approach a moving forklift. Make eye contact, get acknowledgement before proceeding, but never stand or work close to a forklift performing picks or placements of materials overhead. All our locations have some form of truck, vehicle, or combination of truck and trailer moving about their property. At some point, these vehicles will cross walking paths, including driving near parking lots, or immediately intersect with logistics operations and other mobile equipment inside the building. As a pedestrian, the same best practices apply for trucks and trailers. Don't assume any truck driver or vehicle has seen you. Communicate and get some sort of confirmation it is safe to cross before doing so, or simply wait for them to clear the area. Avoid approaching or speaking directly to a truck driver or vehicle while it is operating. Maintain your distance and approach only when fully stopped and that the driver has indicated it is safe to do so. In general, there are very few reasons why pedestrians would be present in loading or unloading dock bays. Trained personnel to receive, chalk, and work directly with logistics companies and drivers are present in the area and should be solely tasked with operations that intersect these types of vehicles. So mobile equipment involves any type of aerial work platform or lift. These are not as common at our locations as other pieces of equipment, but do still pose hazards where they operate. Operators of mobile platforms must make sure their driving path is clear or use a spotter to ensure pedestrian safety. Once in position, adequate clearance below overhead work must be maintained, keeping pedestrians from walking too close or below overhead work. Pedestrians, avoid walking near or beneath overhead work. Injuries related to falls from height as well as drop materials can pose significant risk and are very avoidable. If you absolutely need to access something near or beneath overhead work, you must communicate with the lift operator to halt their operations or lower down so it is safe to do so. Whether navigating confined spaces in your work area or safely moving through areas of mobile equipment, take the time to follow the safety best practices we covered today. Simple steps and general courtesy of others to avoid unnecessary or unsafe interactions is what it's all about. Thank you for viewing this month's training.